Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and Scott Jennings roasts Tara Setmeyer on CNN just because she refuses to acknowledge the obvious Trump victories in this current presidency. Let's dive in.
The president has solved like 7 conflicts this year. I'm willing to give him some latitude to talk to Vladimir Putin and break the deadlock and try to move us toward a place where the killing comes to an end, because I think that's what we should all be praying for.
He actually hasn't solved 7 conflicts. There's been a lot of talk about that.
Well, what reality do you live in? He's literally got these guys in the White House where they're signing documents and shaking hands. Acknowledge the man is solving peace.
And India questioned about whether that was an actual
deal. It happens on almost a weekly basis.
Just acknowledge it. Just acknowledge it. And I will also acknowledge that Donald Trump seems to have an affinity for Vladimir Putin in a way. No, you're not going to get away with calling me a liar. I know that's like the line you like to throw out, but I'm not lying.
You're lying.
Nobody's lying about anything.
Sure
you can ask the countries who were involved in this whether those conflicts were actually solved by Donald Trump or whether it was pomp and circumstance.
Okay.
Anyway,
whatever you say. You're the expert.
Donald Trump's affinity for Vladimir Putin versus the way he treats Zelensky, who's the one
did he show affinity to them when he just arranged for the arms to NATO?
I'm just sorry, Abby.
We're saying things that do not exist in reality. He just got NATO to do hundreds of millions of dollars of lethal weapons to Ukraine. What affinity to Russia is that?
It's crazy.
Let me just let her finish so I can even understand what point she's trying to make. Let me let her finish the point.
Okay, so we all have seen how Donald Trump has been has an affinity for Vladimir Putin. We have seen the pattern for years, and only recently, because he hasn't been able to solve the crisis in 24 hours, because Putin has been playing him from day one. He's been a useful idiot for Russia for years, and now because they're trying to change the subject.
Is Biden a useful idiot?
Okay.
Talking about
it started when Biden was president. I'm just curious if you're going to hold Biden the same standard. If Donald Trump's always a useful idiet, then Joe Biden should be held accountable for almost 2 years of this.
Let me go back for 1 second.
Joe Biden didn't take the side of Vladimir Putin over our own intelligence agency the way Donald Trump did in Helsinki. So let's not even go there.
Part of the point that she's making is that Trump, first of all, he needs to resolve this because he said when he was running for president that he would resolve it in 24 hours. That clearly has not happened. But he wants to be a peacemaker. He wants to be a peacemaker in the situation. He wants the Nobel Peace Prize, that whole thing. And this has been elusive largely because Vladimir Putin is not that interested in the deal. He's not. So, I mean, is Trump going into this a little bit naive, thinking that Putin is actually ready to deal when what Putin really wants is complete victory?
This is the part that is, I think, is really just sad. Is that there's people that are sitting at this table that clearly want this to be a failure.
Where are those people?
I think you're one of them.
What? You don't put words in my mouth. I never said that. And neither did Dan.
You come out here with the talking points.
We want him to negotiate from a position of strength, not bringing a war criminal on U.S. soil and saying, I'm not allowed to interrupt you, but you can interrupt me and overtalk the whole time.
I heard a lot of what you said. I heard a lot of what you said, and a lot of it was against Trump. I go back to what I was saying.
Let me let Dan.
They just can't give him credit, can they? They can't admit it. They can't admit that Donald Trump's presidency has been a blessing for the majority of the world right now. All right? And it's not because they love the fact that we're putting tariffs on him. No, it's because he knows how to make a deal, make something tolerable. In order to research for this video, to understand fully what kind of conflicts he's helped resolve, there's a major initiative currently going on in between Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Armenia. And in order for Turkey to get resources to Azerbaijan, they need to pass through Armenian territory, the very same territory that Azerbaijan keeps on invading over and over again. Donald Trump comes up with the idea, hey, I got a better idea. Instead of fighting over this territory, what if the United States managed that corridor with it through a third-party U.S. company? And all of a sudden, the two armies shook hands and said, you know what, this is way better. So it's out of everyone else's hands. Everyone wins. Armenia gets to keep its sovereignty, Azerbaijan gets its resources, and Turkey gets to flex their muscles a little bit more. And we get to remind Russia and Iran that, yes, we are still in the region, and we will send a freedom Dorito again if you try to take us off. He has also helped solve the problem that was going on between Iran and Israel by, like I said, flying in that beautiful freedom Dorito, the B-2 bomber, and having a massive strike against a major military position that could have turned into an international travesty. And then Donald Trump is actually getting nominated, or at least it will likely be nominated, for a Nobel Prize because of what he's done for Cambodia and Thailand. All right, this is massive. By the way, that region gets slept on a lot. This is what happened. Donald Trump received another Nobel Peace Prize nomination last week, this time from Cambodia, after the U.S. helped broker a ceasefire after a border dispute flared up between the Southeast Asian nation and its neighbor, Thailand. This is massive, and it's a game changer because Cambodia has not liked us ever since the Vietnam War. Do not look up how we accidentally created Pol Pot. It was one of our foreign policy disasters. One of the worst things the United States might have ever done. And they have not been happy with the United States ever since, and I don't blame them. But this is showing that, hey, things change, things heal, things get better. And Donald Trump is then offering a solution between the two nations because they're fighting over a region that should belong to Cambodia, should belong to Thailand. No one really knows because of all the screwed up colonization that kept on happening from European powers who were getting too big for their britches. Beginning to think America was right in what we did after World War II, or at least the brief time after World War II. But the reality is Donald Trump is a deal maker. He is someone that wants people to come together and let's make some money. Okay? This is a simple concept. It's the most American thing I can possibly think of. There's different nations sort of have different philosophies. America is, how can I make money? And we're pretty good at it. All right, there's a reason the stock exchange is in New York City and no longer in London. There's a reason why all the other nations have their gold there in New York City than they do in their own home nations. They like the way Americans do business, and they would rather deal with Americans than a whole lot of the other European powers. So Scott Jennings is right in saying that Trump has solved 7 major conflicts. The 2 big ones are still out there: the fight between Gaza and the State of Israel, as well as the war in Ukraine. Which, by the way, this Tara Setmeyer could not admit, even for an instant, that wasn't that started by Joe Biden? Didn't Biden's weakness after leaving Afghanistan in such a terrible state open the door for these policies? They don't want to look back and criticize their own side. Instead, they do what Democrats do best in this situation: deflect and deny. They deny that Donald Trump is doing any good work, even though he has clearly, within the past year, made a whole bunch of deals that are helping nations end up coming together. I mean, India and Pakistan have ceased hostilities. Finally, they were on track to cease hostilities anyways, but we don't understand how broken the nation of Pakistan is. They have been in a terrible state ever since those floods in the Indus River a couple of years ago, and they just haven't recovered. And the reality is, Donald Trump is looking at all these geopolitics, all these issues, Rwanda and the Congo. He's looking across the entire world and saying, where can I make a deal? And it's working. It worked in his first term when he should have been nominated for a Nobel Prize in getting the Arab states. I'm talking about the Saudi Arabians. I'm talking about the Gulf states, I think minus Qatar. And they all signed peace agreements with Israel in order to get a pipeline up to Turkey. That is one of the most groundbreaking things in modern world history. It might have been the biggest turning point since 9/11. I'm not joking when I say that, and I'm not saying it lightly. And Democrats like Tara Setmeyer cannot give him credit even for an instant. And then when they deny it's happening, and Scott Jennings just says, nope, this is happening, you need to acknowledge it, they then deflect and say, well, he's Putin's puppet. What are they on? I do not understand how warped your mind has to be to deny reality. This is something that is inherent on the left. This is a problem that, ironically, George Orwell himself wrote about, even though he was a staunch leftist himself. This mentality just permeates the entirety of the Democrat Party, and they now have realized that they've let the cat out of the bag for too long, and now they're dealing with politicians like Mandami who are running even further to the left. They don't understand that if they don't And CNN actually, I believe, is starting to get it because they're having more conservative people on their programs. They understand if they don't move back to the center, they are toast in 10 years. All right, CNN might not exist, which that would be such a wonderful thing. I'll throw a party when they go down. But if they don't deal with a problem and the mental psychosis on their own left flank, they will be slowly consumed whole and then lose all integrity and what little they have left. So yeah, Scott Jennings is calling out Tara here. She deserves it, and no one came to her defense. I think that needs more note than anything else. But let me know in the comments below, do you think Donald Trump deserves a Nobel Prize? I personally do. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.